Marijuana petitions resumed today. The lawsuit claims some of the signatures are fraudulent. The sponsors and those trying to throw out the initiatives presented their evidence. 6 News' Brian Mastry has more.
Aaron, one witness dominated the afternoon testimony. She's really one of the state's star witnesses, and the defense team for the ballot sponsors of medical cannabis tried to poke holes in her story. The Secretary of State is trying to get a judge to determine that the rules weren't followed, collecting thousands of signatures, that notaries signed petitions alone, and that without the required signatures of the petition collectors. And because of that, the results of the election on the issue should be void. But the defense says the state simply wants to throw out the will of the people, all the valid signatures, nearly 90,000, because of some mistakes. This is the key witness for the state, Jennifer Henning of Omaha. She collected signatures for this ballot issue. The defense questioned her motives for her testimony today, considering she's currently on probation for insurance fraud.
Has anyone told you that you would be spared criminal charges in exchange for testimony provided here today?
Objection, form and foundation.
Overruled.
Spared criminal charges?
Did the criminal investigators in this case offer you a deal in exchange for your testimony here today?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
What do you mean a deal?
Did they offer you any benefit in exchange for your testimony here today?
The criminal or civil?
Late today, the state played a recording Jennifer Henning had of the ballot sponsor Krista Eggers thanking her supporters for all the hard work. The defense played it to show that Eggers not once asked anyone to destroy evidence or violate the law, as Henning had alleged. Again, the case may hinge on her credibility in the judge's eyes. The trial continues tomorrow morning and it'll likely go into Monday. And as we speak, remember, thousands of folks are voting on whether Nebraska should have medical cannabis. On your side, Brian Mastry, 6 News.